Everybody, I wanted to reach out and just kind of give you a little update video now here as we move into week 12 of the semester, and you have your unit plan, lesson plans due in week 15. So you got about, what, 13, 14, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks to get those in. This week, as I mentioned in the course announcement, there will be no assignment due. So I'm giving you this week, kind of a half week, as Ashland closes on Wednesday and does not reopen until Tuesday. Some time to get ahead on that. So a couple things before we get into that, just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page here. Now you're going to notice I changed the number of required lesson plans from 8 to 10 to 6 to 8. Many school districts are now going to longer class periods, so you probably won't even have, well, it depends on where you go. You may not have, I don't want to say probably, you may not have 45, 50-minute class periods. You might have 75, you might have 90. So it's just going to depend on where you go. But just make sure you turn in this assignment via Microsoft Word, not using a Google Doc. I know it's been sometimes for some people a little bit of a struggle, so make sure you do that. You identify your course level, all those things. Talk about your Ohio State standard, how that correlates, but also your learning outcomes. Stay away, many of you got this comment, stay away from words like understand and recognize in your learning objectives. Those are no good. Identify, explain, compare, contrast, analyze, define, things of that nature. Those are what we want to have for our learning objectives. So make sure you have that as well. I'm also looking to make sure you have things that are a connection to students in a personal life. So it could be something that impacts them locally. It could be something that impacts maybe people of their age, whatever that is. Try to incorporate that into there as well. Moving forward here, again, as I mentioned, the requirements state, okay, so you got to have specific lesson plans that incorporate things like I'm looking for writing strategies or vocabulary strategies. I'm looking for activities that preview a lesson or preview the unit. So many of you already did your unit plan preview, rough draft, whatever you want to call it. You did a lesson plan rough draft. So some of these things are already built in. How are you going to utilize them and leverage them in your lesson plan? That's what I'm looking for here. Also, I'd like you to really concentrate on creating and coming up with better ways to start the class. I'm getting too much of, we're going to talk about this, or we're going to ask a question about that. Look at things like bell work. Look at things like warm-up activities, bell warmers. There's a whole bunch of different names for the same thing. How specifically are you going to do that? That's what I'm looking for here. I don't want you to write any more in generalities. Get rid of the generalities. Give me content, specific plan. Don't just tell me we're going to have a discussion and we're going to watch a video. That doesn't mean anything. And the more you're in the classroom, you're going to realize that. So this isn't like I'm trying to be hard on you. I want you to come through and focus on these decisions, because these are the real-time decisions you're going to have to make every day. The average teacher makes about 15 to 1600 decisions a day at work. How you start class is one of them, but it's one of the most important ones as well. So how are you going to do that? Boy, I'm seeing way too much of we're going to have a discussion. A discussion will work only if you have the classroom set up climate really well. Otherwise, you're going to get 2 or 3 students that are doing a discussion, and that doesn't really tell you anything. So try to get away from that, all right? I have some different strategies in the document that you can utilize. I provide you also with some different resources. I really want you to focus on also, how are you going to conclude the lesson? Are you going to have an exit slip? Differentiation is another item that I would also like you to focus on. Differentiation does not mean a student with IEP gets to turn in something later. Differentiation means, how are you going to deliver the students the information? Are you going to use charts, maps, graphs, videos, primary sources? What are you doing in the social studies classroom in a variety of ways to deliver that information? How are you going to have your students engage with each other? Are they just going to be sitting there? Are they going to? And then I see a lot of, we're going to put them into groups. Well, how are you defining what the groups are? Do the students get to select the groups? Do they get to select the topic, for instance? These are all details that you really, really need to work out. When you say things like, I'm going to give them a quiz, that's nice, but what does that mean? Is this on a Google form? Is this a paper and pencil? Are you grading it? Are you going to have something in the classroom where maybe the students grade it? They grade each other's, and then they turn in that way. I don't know. There's a million things you could do there, but you need to be more specific about that, okay? So lastly, the last thing I want to touch on is the appendix. So the appendix needs to include every material and resource that you're using. So any Google slide, any worksheet, any map, anything that you're giving the students that they're going to use, or any retail or a resource or that you're going to be using in the class needs to be shared, because I want you to get a grasp and a concept of really how much goes into teaching a 45-minute lesson, a 75-minute lesson, whatever it is, and how you have to go and find those materials. And it's not just finding a material that's related. It's about finding that one that really fits what you're trying to do. Education is not one size fits all, and you'll find the more you teach, first period will be totally different than second period and third period, et cetera, et cetera. So how are you going to recognize these differences, leverage your formative assessments into creating really personalized and customized education that is engaging, not just having passive students sitting there consuming information, but rather not just consuming, but we want to make them also producing content as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I look forward to seeing your unit plans as we move forward.